A year ago this month, 8 News Now aired a multi-part project, in-depth project called The Other Side of Opioids, which explored the mostly untold stories of how a crackdown on prescription medications has affected millions of legitimate patients dealing with chronic pain.
Now, the Centers for Disease Control started this ball rolling back in 2016 when it issued supposedly voluntary guidelines that have since been enacted into law all across the country. Now, in the past year, the crackdown has really intensified, though it failed to really put a dent in opioid overdoses. Tonight, George Knapp of the I-Team has an update.
Barbie Engel learned about chronic pain patients the hard way by becoming one. She lost everything to pain, then slowly rebuilt her life and became an advocate for pain patients. Since 2016, when the CDC initiated the great opioid crackdown, the suffering for millions of legitimate pain patients has grown worse.
I'm just hearing more desperation. I'm hearing about more suicides, more loss of friends.
Engel hears the stories every day, and now the news is slowly seeping out. Suicides among pain patients have spiked, including among seniors and veterans. Pain patients who could function and hold jobs have had to leave the workforce after being cut off. Forced reductions in the production of opioid medications have been felt in hospital emergency rooms, even in hospices where end-of-life cancer patients have had to suffer. The crackdown on medications not only failed to cut opioid overdoses, the deaths have gone up, especially in areas that cut down the most. Death records, including in Nevada, show that 80% of the ODs are from illicit drugs like heroin and fentanyl, or a combination of drugs and booze, along with other underlying medical problems.
Gunshot wounds, people who are taking multiple medications or mixing medications, even NSAIDs and opioids, you know, they could have been the NSAIDs that gave you internal bleeding, but they're blaming it on the opioids only.
The annual Pain Week symposium held in Las Vegas was missing many familiar faces this year. Pain doctors are shutting down their practices out of fear they'll be prosecuted. Pain pioneer Dr. Forrest Tennant was given the Lifetime Achievement Award 1 year ago. Now his practice is shut down, not because he was charged with any crime, but merely because he was served a search warrant. That kind of news spreads fast among doctors.
We already know that patients are having trouble finding doctors willing to treat them, especially in rural areas. You know, pain management doctors are extremely hard to find, and if they're abandoning their profession and going back to family practice or whatever else that they can do safely, you know, who's going to treat the pain patient of the future? You know, from the standpoint of the patient, yes, they are being abandoned. From the standpoint of the doctor, they could be going to jail if they don't stop prescribing. So what choice do they have?
We also updated the adoption of the guidelines for the chronic use of opioids.
Since January, when a new state law kicked in, Nevada doctors have sought clarification from the medical board about what the crackdown means here. At its most recent meeting, the board approved general guidelines that are far less draconian than in some other states, but the required paperwork is burdensome, and patients are being cut back regardless of their individual medical needs.
I had my pain management physicians start to involuntarily taper me down to 90 MMEs, and their entire, amount of patients they had like 300 patients, and told me they were going to taper all of them down to 90. It's like we're all in pain because of it.
Patient advocate Rick Martin says the worst may come in January, when new federal guidelines give pharmacies and insurance providers more power to overrule no matter what a doctor might prescribe.
The insurance company is basically got a prescription pad and a white coat on now, and is telling the legislators and the doctors what to do. The patient-doctor relationship is shattered.
George Knapp, 8 News Now.
Now, on our website, we have a wealth of information, including recent developments and links to our project called The Other Side of Opioids.